IMHO Talk Show, your home for today's in classics, hip hop and R&B, home of Newman in the morning.
Don't forget where you're at now. You hesitated there.
Hey, you know, sometimes you got to collect your thoughts,
Absolutely.
But it's Charles,
Miss Max.
and Seville. You know, we like to raise up our own. We like to grandize our own because we're doing a lot of good things around here, and then we want to take that to the world. But you know, my dad used to say, "It's a poor frog don't praise his own pond."
Oh yeah.
You ever heard that before, Mr. Brown?
No, I never heard that.
Oh man,
I like that one.
Yeah.
You hear it again.
And that's right. I am speaking with Caruso Brown, Mr. Caruso Brown, acclaimed fame most recently here. We had to get him in here because he is the writer and director for Old School, the play that was being shown at the Jefferson School African American Heritage Center. And so we wanted to bring him in because this was such an impactful play, just for one weekend. Is that correct, Mr. Brown?
Well, we ran from Thursday through Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thursday to Sunday. So first of all, for those who may have not heard about it and didn't get to see it, want to make sure that we get you to give a backdrop on the inspiration behind it. This like I said, this was awesome.
Sure.
Awesome.
Well, thank you, brother. First of all, the play, the inspiration behind it had a lot to do with, I guess, two of my very strong interests. One is theater, but the other is genealogy. I'm a co-founder of the African American genealogy group here in town called Burke Brown Step. And we met and we were thinking of what can we do as a fundraiser. And someone mentioned play, and all of a sudden everybody started looking at me because they know I wrote plays. But we found it as a good venue to be able to articulate the importance of history and how important it is for us to not just run through it, but also remember and reflect on it. So hopefully the play had a way of touching people's lives in that way. As we pointed out some of the characters from the past who were critical in African American education immediately in Charlottesville area, immediately following slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Now, with the crux of that play, the audience. Do you feel like that the audience that it was intended for saw it, and is there plans to make sure that more people see it?
Good question. Mm-hmm. Actually, our intent was that people from the community would embrace it, and what we found was that we had a good outpouring from people from the community. What we probably would have hoped for, you always have a little greater ambition than what you get, was to reach out to more in the school staff and some of the school kids. We made a point of being sure that the schools knew about this because we wanted this to be an opportunity for them to use this as a platform for them understanding, helping to teach Black history. And what better history in Black history than your own history right here in Charlottesville. So if we would ever do it again, people have been ringing my bells about that. And,
yeah, that's good stuff.
And we would certainly want to be able to do it in a way that would reach out to the schools, both in terms of school personnel as well as the children there as well.
Yeah.
What do you think is important about educating through theater? Because, you know, I got a chance to attend a music concert last night, and it was wonderful to see so many different nationalities there just partaking and feeling good and just living in the moment, and everything is peaceful, and we're not worried about all these different categories and genres that everybody fits in and things like that. So tell us maybe what you think or why you think it's important that people learn through theater.
Yeah. Well, theater is one of those venues that allows people to escape. They can lose themselves, as you said, and kind of forget what else is going on in the world. And to see something on a stage it's an interesting way of osmosis to the mind. Mm-hmm. It's a way for people to start to experience something without having to live it for themselves. Mm-hmm. They can walk away sometimes. I've heard people say, and they'll have this sense that they've been there, and they oh no, I was at the play, and it was a way of being able to teach in ways that are more dimensional than maybe teaching at the blackboard or teaching from a lecture, but be able to reach people within the arts is a unique way of being able to reach people into their spirits in my sense of it.
Yeah. And I'm definitely hoping, I think that it's worthy to be able to do some sort of a tour amongst our schools and even bigger, because this is definitely top notch. I want to commend you on that.
Thank you.
But then that leads to the question though of your opinion on what's plaguing our kids in school right now, because there is what's called either opportunity gap or achievement gap.
Right.
I've had elders tell me before that they didn't have the same problems when we were being educated by our own.
Yeah.
And so I know that was something that you touched on in the play. And also you can, I know you have
Let me introduce.
Yeah. You
I have
Miss April Burns with
I
you.
certainly do. As our current president of our genealogy group is April Burns, and she's here with me today, sharing the stool. And I certainly invite her to jump at any point, because I have a big mouth and I forget to shut up sometimes. But let me speak to what you're saying. My thought is this: one of the things that was a subtle message, maybe not too subtle message in the play, was that. Back then, when after slavery, people like Isabella Gibbons and others who had one-room classrooms and had poor supplies, if any, and yet they were able to teach kids, and these kids grew up to be pillars of the community. They grew up to be people that people looked up to. They didn't know how to read at first, but that didn't last long. They learned how to read. They learned all of their subjects. And so how did this happen, you would ask? Well, my thought is that it's because they were hungry. Is actually a line from the play. They were hungry and thirsty to learn. There was a real sense that they were learning not just for themselves, but for the next generation. It wasn't just kids who went to these schools. There were adults who went to these schools who were denied the opportunity to learn as slaves. And so then this was their opportunity to grab a hold of something that was dear to them, but not just for them. So one of the things I said to someone, and I think it may have been quoted since, it really is almost impossible to think this through, that how could people back then with so little go so far, and we with everything can hardly stay in school at all. It's something that's missing. There's something that's broke. And my sense of what it is that, and we're all guilty of it, I think that as every generation has always wanted better for the next generation, something got lost in that, I think, in what we've been doing in the last couple of generations. We've not given our children a hunger. We've overfed them, if you will. They have everything they want. Everything they want, they get it right then. They want it when they ask for it today. They want it yesterday. So what happens is they never long to hunger. And if you don't ever get hungry, if the hunger pains never kick in, then you never have a reason to keep on keeping on. And I think these kids basically are wandering around, just trying to find a place that they can connect.
Amen.
Yeah.
April, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I was just going to elaborate on that because
way too far away. We got to get you to come in a little closer. Yeah.
Just to elaborate on that, I think he touched on the important point. The children today, they have everything. There's nothing for them to achieve. Well, I want to say nothing, but we've given them so much. There's no imagination. There's no incentive to do better because they have everything that they need. And I just think that the other piece in the play that was missing, or that's missing today, is just the respect. And we focused on that in the play as well. One of the characters made it a point to say, "Shake my hand. Look at me eye to eye." I've been in a room with 20 people and no one was interacting in that group. So that sense of community is gone. And these kids are just lost. So we were hoping to see more children come in and just see that. Respect your elders, respect your community, respect the fact that you're learning, your hunger needs to be there so that you can gain that power at the board level, power at the voting level to own. Those are things that are missing.
Can I ask y'all two a question?
Yes.
Do y'all, I used to hear a phrase called, the white man's ice was colder. Do y'all feel
I know the joke.
that?
I like that joke.
Yeah, I ain't gonna go no
I quote that joke all the time. Yeah.
Do y'all feel that because of the way African Americans were treated, that it transcended over to the way that our children looked at one another? So when you spoke about the respect not being there, they don't get respected, so there's no way that they can respect somebody that looks like them. How do we flip that? Because a lot of people back in the day used to put their houses up so that children could go off to school. Then the children got education and then would sell that same property for pennies on the dollar and never want to come back. So how do we, in this age of fakeness, the Kardashian era, how do we flip that back over to our African American kids? Because I think that the women are figuring it out first because they're starting to go natural with their hair. While the boys, I feel, because of mass incarceration and not having a male around, having to be led by, and this is no disrespect to the women that raise boys, but I feel that the boys are not going to be men. They had no leadership. They had nothing to follow. So how do we get that back in line when the young men coming up don't have mentors? Because when black women, I love you, but when y'all are the ones doing everything for your children, you don't want nobody telling you about your child until he's too old for you to do anything. So how do y'all think that we get back that respect, that talking at the dinner table, that Charles, what's the word? Entitlement that children think that they have now?
You're gonna leave me with that one. Through learning Black history, we have children here who don't know the history of Charlottesville and Albemarle, and that's one of the things that we tried to bring into the play. That was key. Focusing on things like, you're going to Greer Elementary School. Do you know who Miss Greer is? Do you know what her power is? Do you understand when Black people became Black people? When we were no longer Africans, when white people became white people, when they were no longer Europeans, Polish, Italian, whatever. Race is a social construct that started in this country, and white people continually degraded and degraded and degraded. Now we're doing it too. We're doing it with our Latino comrades and colleagues, and so we are starting to be those people. And that scares me. But I think it scares me because we don't understand. We don't know why we became Black, what our history is in America. So we're bringing ourselves down, and we're bringing down everyone who is of color. That's that term that I just can't stand. Because,
what
does that mean? Everybody is of color, or you're translucent. You're invisible if you're not of color. So I think just building up that curriculum and teaching Black history, African American history.
And I agree totally with April. Only I would add to that is that any real change at this point, I mean, that's a good critique of why we are where we are. But in terms of moving forward, anything that's going to happen is going to have to be intentional. It cannot be just simply hoping that the system will turn or flip itself. Parents are going to have to realize, as April said, I've got to go old school. I've got to go back to the way things were, not because I'm worshiping the past, but there's some nuggets there. There were some nuggets there that were learned and understood, that we can translate that into the current day and create that same kind of inner value system that was existing then. It may not be done in the exact same way.
Who should be our Black leaders then?
First of all, our Black leaders, in my opinion, your Black leaders have to be your parents. It's got to start that your parents, because I say this, if they can't lead you, they should at least motivate you. They should at least inspire you. They should at least teach you from the very beginning that nothing is outside your grasp. And I know as I was growing up, I mean, I didn't get that either, but I got it elsewhere. But parents are so important as a way of combating all the mess that they don't get from school and don't get from the community. So that's a starting point. But then I say this about Black men, because being a Black man, not raised by my father either, that the deal is that every Black man has got to understand the tribal mentality of raising these boys in the wilderness, that we might grow them.
Let the church say amen.
That we might grow them. and we can't point our fingers to a couple, 2 or 3 who are participating, 100 Black men. No, it needs to be 1 million Black men. All of us need to step up in some way to look back at some young boy and say, I got you. I got you.
How can they do that when a lot of them don't have themselves?
Well, let me tell you this. I think even the blind can lead the blind if the blind can remember where they fell. So if they don't have to fall in the same
rough
place.
Charles.
But that's the deal. That I'm broken. I've got 1,000 ways that I'm splintered and broken, but I still have some value if it is no more than by my own failures. I can teach to not do that.
Right.
I mean, if I don't know how to teach to do what, I can teach not to do that.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was thinking when you were mentioning the parents, is that like the role models could be, look at me to know what not
That's
to do.
Exactly right. That's exactly
so it goes, it's both sides.
Yeah.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah. And ladies and gentlemen, we are speaking with Mr. Caruso Brown and Miss April Burns, and we are talking about the play Old School. Ladies and gentlemen, we are speaking with Mr. Caruso Brown and Miss April Burns, and we are talking about the play Old School and much more, because that is a play that definitely makes you think. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about, as it related to the pride, that one can feel when you come to the knowledge of the rich history that's right here. A young black boy or girl, once they realize who Benjamin Tonsler is, right. Once they realize who Isabella Gibbons is, Mary Greer and so forth, then that makes you feel a certain pride, right? Because, right. But as long as you're maybe, if on the flip side, you see statues of, say, R.E. Lee, right. And you see, like the Confederate generals' names on your elementary schools, right. Not knowing that one of your elementary schools there was a black educator. Right. That's her name, right? Right. So the whole thing, I'm just thinking about how
more than one.
Yeah, definitely more than one. Yeah. Virginia Murray, right? Yeah. Murray High School. Yeah. So I'm thinking about that pride factor. How far do you think that goes when it comes to our kids performing in school better, as far as just that knowing who they are? Is that a big part of why some of our young people don't want to take school serious or don't want to be proud of being from Charlottesville?
Yeah, it's interesting you make the reference to being proud of coming from Charlottesville. That was actually a line in the character's play. Mm-hmm. In the play we did, that was one of his chief playing. Oh, you're just from Charlottesville? I can guarantee you when I get out here, I ain't never looking back, right? Because there's nothing in Charlottesville of value. And the truth of it is that this. I think that you will always have opposing issues. You'll always have statues that have been erected against you. Mm. But you've got to erect some statues for you, and whether they put them on a pillar or not, somehow you've got to know your history and you put them in your own statue. You create your own platform where they sit and where they lie, so that you don't have to get caught up in the mess to believe that all that there is of those gray statues that somebody put up for all the wrong reasons. What you learn to do is, I've got proud history. It's full of color. It's technicolor. I can put that and make it live every day in my life because I know it. And what you know, once you know it, they can't take it from you. You see, and that's the thing. And I think April's right on, is that we have been denied a real sense of our history, and that has caused us to be able to not be able to see beyond our immediacy, and to be able to look beyond what we can become.
Mm-hmm. April?
It's a funny quote that I heard from Cat Williams.
Oh yeah. Why not?
He went to, I don't even remember the incident, why he was there or where he was there, but he went to a university and he was talking about someone placed a noose on a door.
Yes, I love this.
And he said, I ain't scared of rope. And I was like, yeah, because I'm powerful and I'm strong on this side of someone's rope, and they value that. Right. And that's what's beautiful about America, is that they value that. I don't understand it, but I value fishing line, So as a community coming together, we're all very different. Right. And we all have to recognize that we all have something to offer. And maybe, just maybe, when that broken person looks up in that room of 20 people, they've impacted one person, and that's fine. That's how we bring that community back. Right. One person can do one thing, and that little boy who doesn't value himself is going to say, that man looked at me, and he saw me.
He saw me, right.
It's powerful. It's powerful.
Yeah.
And so how do we get our youth more involved in things like this, because your play clearly is much more than just acting on a stage, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we get our black youth, especially, involved in things like this, where drama or theater may not be as seen as cool, or you should be playing, football or basketball and things like that? What do they need to know?
I'm confident that they value authority. They still value authority. They still value teachers. It's cool. When you see your friends and this one saying, come on, man, let's go. I still see that. So there is hope there. So what those of us who want to have this happen, need to get up off her and go out there. We need to bring it to them. They're not going to come to us because they already have everything.
Right.
Remember, so we have to give them the one thing that they don't have. And that's that old school.
Yeah. And it is. I think that is true. And as I was listening to April, for that, people don't know to look for things that they don't think they need. So the kids are not coming to look for this sense of empowerment when they think the empowerment's and all the other stuff that they do and all the other people they hang out with. So we've got to introduce that in a way. And quite honestly, you know, I'm of the age where I can look at a point and say, I remember when. But the bottom line is we've got to redress this and we've got to put it in a different costume, you know, to be able to make sure that kids can relate to this. I mean, you look at Black Panther, right? How much fanfare that got. The fact was that someone contemporized what it meant to be a hero.
Yeah.
What it meant to be a hero. And they may never get the same buzz from Dr. Martin Luther King, but they need to know that there's power for people who can have an impact on their lives. And that's what we have to continue to bring them, pieces of power until all those fragments can collect inside of them so they can feel that they can in truth become somebody. Why? Because people behind me was somebody. Why? Because of what I feel about me inside.
Yeah.
I can do this. And you know, and not always feel that we got to step aside because I don't think I can do this, and be willing to invest the time that it takes for excellence. Excellence doesn't come the very first time. I don't care how good you are. I don't care how good you are as a basketball player. You weren't an expert the first time you picked up that ball.
That's right.
It was practice and practice and practice along with your skill set that created your excellence. So we got to do the same thing in every realm of life, not just basketball, but show them that you can add some intentional work effort along with your talent to achieve anything you want. There's no reason, with all the hatred out there and all the other crap, there's no reason that we need to feel this glass ceiling in our lives now. The glass ceiling in so many ways that kids can't appreciate now has been broken because we can vote, right? We can speak. We can articulate our feelings, and we can go where we need to go. That is a change, and that change gives us power.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
Mr. Caruso, if I could just put you in a cup and pass you out to all of the listening audience, because you're just a glass of fresh water to everyone. And Black self-respect and pride just exudes you. And coming from an area where, coming from Greene County, where the black people there are few and far between. I didn't grow up. I only wonder what I could have been or what I could have accomplished, where I'd be if I had someone like you or you, Miss April, to look at. I think what you're doing is awesome, and I commend you for the way that you're touching the youth and touching all of us, really.
Yes, right.
I have you read my heart. Like, my soul hugged both of y'all while y'all was talking. And it's hard to make me speechless because I run this mouth of mine. But I do want to say, while you were saying that, I was running through, we have a huge family. We have 8 children. And some of them cleave to us. Some of them cleave to us in order to gain the acceptance of their peers, you know, and others haven't found their way. Now, when it comes to raising these African American children that we want to push to the next level, but we're giving them hope, like you said, and we're telling them what not to do based off of our experiences. How do we then, in turn, get the respect from those children? You know, because we're pushing them and say, you can do this and you can do that, and don't do this because I made my mistakes here. But then we want them to follow and listen to us when they don't want to hear what we got to say. That's a difficult thing in this society because these kids, some of the top songs now is about suicide, about giving up, about all these different things, about the girls rap harder than the boys now. I mean, vulgar is like, Lord have mercy, somebody smack that child, please. So how do we in turn flip our children around? Because I don't believe other races are having the inside struggles that we're having, trying to regain our tribes, so to speak. Y'all have any recommendations?
I don't have any recommendations, but I do have some personal experience. Actually, I do have recommendation. My biggest one is kindness and love. I too am an African American woman who raised 2 boys alone, you know, without their fathers, but they had friends, and their friends had parents who were not as willing to be a parent as I was. And I can remember, I won't say his name because that's just not appropriate. I remember a young boy who's a friend of my oldest child who stole something from my house. And instead of saying, instead of taking that moment to say, go away, you da-da-da-da, I turned it on him and I said, he came to the house and he asked me, could he see my son? And I said, yeah, but you have to see him at the end of the driveway. I was very real to him.
That's right.
I told him, I respect you. I want you to respect me. And at some point, you'll be able to come back into my house. But I value the fact that you love my son as much as I do. So I'm going to let you talk to my son. So I think just being kind to each other and embracing. Does that?
Oh yeah.
I have fantasies about everybody happy and joyful. I don't know, but I just think that if we don't acknowledge a person, if we don't see a person as bad as they are, that's true, but we're real with them. And we recognize that.
Do you think that philosophy still applies when it comes to women? Because we're always in competition with each other for whatever reason.
Oh my gosh, we are our worst enemies.
Yeah.
We really, really are. Your hair, your what you're wearing, etc. I don't even know how to fix that.
If I can comment on April's remark about kindness, what I thought about this, for those who saw the play, you'll follow me here. But each of the characters from the old school generation that this young man encountered, and that young man was named Quinton, gave him something. They left him something. One of them left him history, sternness, that this is that let you know from whence we've come. The other gave him manhood. You've got to stand up and shake my hand like a man. The other gave him hope. You can become all that you want to be, like I was. I went to New York. I did this. I did that. He gave him hope. And then the last one was a grandmotherly figure who played the part of Rebecca McGinnis, and she gave him love. She gave him love. She told him, boy, don't you turn out like that. Don't do that to me. And you saw him break in that moment and say to her, I won't do that. I'll be all right. And so much so when his friend came back, he told his friend, even before he understood it, I'm going to be all right. Because she gave him love.
Can I make a... Go ahead, Charles.
Shout out to Josh St. Hill, by the way. Josh is an amazing young man. Amazing young man.
Excellent.
Yeah, I got my, I'm sweating, in my back. I know the people that's listening to this are feeling what we're feeling inside this room. The information that y'all are giving is love. The only thing that I know that is tough now is that not everybody was raised by a man.
Right.
And when you push yourself to be a man, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people, even though their father was in their life, they ain't men. Right. They're males.
Oh, absolutely.
So when you run across a stern man or it can be called prideful. It can be looked at as in everything but positive because it's not the norm.
Right.
For the gentleman that's listening now, that he knows this ain't right, and I'm trying to keep peace, but I'm trying to say what's right and what's wrong. How do they keep on? Because most people, the black family is broken anyway. Most people are, most children don't belong to the man and the woman in the house. It's a combination of people. So when you have that strong individual that the kids look at him like, well, my friend's daddy don't do this, or you're too hard on the kids, or you know what I'm saying, because a black man, we know what we got to go through. So you either going to stand up there and weather the storm, or you gonna cower behind that tree. That's the only two options that you're really gonna have, and nobody can understand that but another black man. But so for that black man that's listening, that knows that, look, I'm going to stand come hell or high water. This is right. This is wrong. How does he continually do that, knowing that he might tear up everything around him anyhow?
Well, first of all, kudos to that black man you just described, and God knows we need a whole lot more of those at every street corner, right? We need all of them. But I'll tell you, I think one thing that as a black man, I think that I've gauged now that was different from when I was raised, and the black men who were present in my life then. At one time, black men only had to be in order to be seen, all they had to do was be present. Now, black men have to be seen and be verbal. We got to talk to these kids. So you can't just, you can't just hit them side the head when they go wrong. You got to explain to them about the consequences of life. I got you because you were, not just because you were screwing up, but let me tell you why, where that's going to lead you. If we don't try to put this in check right now. See, I think sometimes we still miss the communication piece. We always thought the communication piece belonged to mama, but daddy needs to be able to say, hey boy, the reason I'm doing this,
That's
and check
word
it out,
there.
because I love you.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh my God, right? Say I love you, but I don't love you blindly.
Right.
I'm gonna still jack you up. Amen. My love.
That's so hard. Like I can attest. This is my wife right here, and I can attest that sometimes, I know I didn't have a silver spoon. Well, I'm lying. My daddy gave me everything that he could because he didn't have anything.
Right.
But I've made some bad decisions in my life. I just refuse to stay a statistic.
Right.
And I claw and I move, and every day I have to be better than I was yesterday. You know what I'm saying? Because I was not no angel.
Right.
Now, in that, when I have 6 black sons, and at times, like it's either left, right, yes, no. It's just that, and it can seem like chastisement to those boys because you can't stop a mom from being a mom.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
She might know the children are wrong, but they're still the children. Like you're too hard on them.
Right.
The old way, that was more abundant because we knew we could get hung up on that noose she was talking about, dragged behind that car, beat by the police and nobody ever say nothing. But nowadays, if you stand like that, you seem like an outcast. You seem wrong. So how do we get our families back in line to where, you know what I'm saying? Because the buffer, the guardrail is hard. Run your car up against the guardrail. It's not going to be easy.
Right.
It's just so if you put those boundaries and they don't move, it can throw everything in turmoil if the world is living another way.
Yeah.
So how do you do that in the black family?
But certainly we don't have enough time in the day to take that text by text. But I will say this, and I'm gonna let April speak. The one thought I had about that when you were talking comes from I think a Donnie McClurkin song. After you've done all that you can,
Right.
just stand. Just stand. Don't waver because of how everybody else is doing. Don't waver when your kids throw it back in your face. They threw it back in our faces and our generation. My friends can do it. How come I can't do it? But just still stand. You've got to stand on what's right and make those kind of decisions. It's not going to feel good, look good, or make anybody happy in the moment, but it is good. It's going to be good for them in the long run. If you want to speak.
And just to add to that, and you're going to stand and say, but you're my child. Okay. That is not my child.
Right.
There is a community there, Our elders lived as a community. There was no traditional mother, father. There was, if there's a child that needs something, somebody stepped in. We're missing that point. We're missing that piece. But you're going to stand and you're going to say, you're going to recognize this is, that this is right because you've done it, you've been there. You're my child. And this is the expectation in this household. And then you leave it up to the child to make that choice if they're going to go the wrong way.
And this because what April said, what I heard when I said, you create the village at home.
Yeah.
You create the village at home. You let them know that outside world is not your world.
And it grows.
It grows. They're going to always be influenced by the outside. Let's not be foolish about that. But I'm saying is, the stronger you can make that home be a home of love and respect, and we do good here. We believe in good things here. That's going to help them fight against that stuff out there. Even if you don't see the immediate results of it, they're going to be able to say in those real crucial times, maybe not all of them, but I know what's right. I know what's right. I think maybe one of the things that I remember growing up, and I did my stuff as a kid too, the thing that got me more than anything else, I was raised by a single parent. What affected me more than anything else was to see my mother cry. If I saw her crying, that told me, hey, I'm way out of bounds.
Yes.
I'm way out of bounds. If she's showing tears, I know I done screwed up, right?
Yeah.
And that would push you back. That would always push me back in place.
So thank you for all these golden nuggets that you're leaving all over, in my humble opinion.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
But we're speaking a lot about the information that must be conveyed to the young black male. But April, I'm hoping that you can also give us some information that people need to teach their young black girls, right? Because they learn so many of the wrong messages and information when they're small, right? They're caught up in this aesthetic beauty thing. They're caught up in what it means to have a guy love me, or what I need to look like, or how I need to treat another female, or how I need to behave, or whatever the case might be. We go way wrong when it comes to our girls. We teach them that, they come to view themselves as a lot of the rap songs say, then they develop that persona themselves. And so a lot of people are way off key. They got them dressing inappropriate, like they got them, looking and talking inappropriate. So I'm just hoping that you could speak to the women that are raising young black girls out there. That'll be somebody's mother one day, or somebody's wife one day, or, raise a family one day, because some of them will grow up to lead a family.
I just think the message is clear. The same message that we're teaching our boys. We have to see them. We have to see who they are and what it is that they want. We spend too much time devaluing the role of women, telling them your goal in life is to be a mother. Don't you want to have children? Don't you want to get married? Maybe she doesn't want to get married. Maybe she wants to be an astronaut, and that's just not cool. We don't take them out there to see these other things that are out there for them. We let them sit there and play music, but we don't sit them down in front of a piano and make them play their own music.
Yeah.
Can we at least make sure that they can cook, though? Can we at least make sure they can cook?
We can make sure that they can cook.
In the microwave.
But we also have to make sure that they can cook with their partner.
Yeah.
The boys need to learn to cook too. I'd like for somebody to cook for me.
Yeah, I want them to know how to change a tire, though. We saw it the other day. It looked like something was wrong with the car, and he walking around scratching his head, what I'm saying? So, men ain't men no more.
I think parents just don't sit down and ask them. We have an expectation, but we don't just sit down and ask that person, who are you? Right. We don't say, what do you want to be? And she may want to be a mother. And trust me, that's
noble.
That is noble. That is the right word for that. But maybe she doesn't want to get married. Maybe she doesn't want to have a child.
And that task is also hard when the mother themselves don't know what they're doing.
They don't know. But there's always somebody else. There's an aunt or a teacher or there's always someone else.
And Mr. Brown, let me ask you in regards to the female, because in the play, in the beginning, there were a couple of females who had pretty prevalent parts, to where they would speak up. So was there an intention with any of the female characters there in the class?
It's interesting you ask me that, because I have to reflect on that. I was raised in a female-dominated household with my mom and my sister, and they didn't cut me no slack, right? So I get women if I don't get. And then when I got married, got 2 daughters, and the only pet we ever had was a female pet. So and thank God for my grandson, right? But the deal is, I think I have I think that in my writing, I have a sense of a strong black woman always, a strong woman always, just because it is how I know women. I know women to be strong. I've had to live around really strong women. And I think that's helped me do that. The thing I was going to speak to when April said that comment about girls, but I think it's true about boys as well, and that is exposure. One of the things we have to do with our kids is we have to take them on field trips of life. Take them places so they can see a world outside of their own world. Take them to an opera. Oh yeah, they're gonna be bored out of their tears, but you never know. One of those twirls might set something off in them, man.
Right,
hey, I never thought about being on my toes, but hey, that looks pretty good, So you don't know what the exposure can do. You take them to there, take them to plays, take them to movies, whatever it is. Take them to other counties, other cities, colleges, universities, just to walk around a campus. You'd be surprised at just being able to see that there is a world outside your world, and you don't have to just do that when they're ready for college. That's almost too late. Do it when they're real young, so it becomes something they're used to. Always seeing beyond themselves. Pick books for them to read. Read it with them about foreign countries, about other places, other lives that are different. That grows something in the brain, you guys.
Yes.
That's not just I hope they get it. I hope they get it. It ignites something in their spirit to want more.
Mr. Brown, I do it as soon as I hear him say something crazy. Like if I hear, my wife can tell you, if I would hear something that the kids say, I'd be like, what? What you say? Hold on, everybody get in the car. We're going somewhere. You know what I'm saying? My wife can testify to that. That's, I mean, that was like, I mean, I was exposed to so much, not because my parents said, oh, look, I'm going to give you this or give you that. My dad just didn't want somebody else taking care of his son.
Right.
You know, that's all. His childhood was that traumatic. He never, ever talked to me about it.
Right.
Even when I got old enough to meet the family that was my real family, not my adopted family.
Right.
He didn't want to have, he couldn't come to grips with it. Right. So I had to break away from him to find my family, to find out who I was.
That's right.
So, when my wife could tell you, when I would hear something that just like was off key from African Americans, I'd be like, get in the car. We're driving somewhere to find something so you can relate to where you come from, you know,
and establish new perspective.
Absolutely, because like she said, coming from Greene County, the view that African Americans had of themselves in Greene County was not a good one. In my humble opinion,
I hear you.
You know, they took more of the passive role, the fit in, so I don't cause trouble role.
Don't stand out with it.
Right. And there's no growth in that. Like I said on something else, that's like trying to grow a tree inside a house.
I also think, you know, we as women tend to be in their way too much, because, you know, things like you spill something on your shirt is such a big deal. So we have to look inside of ourselves. You know, we as women need to look inside of ourselves at what we value, and we value the wrong things a lot of times. These are all material things. You can wash a shirt. You can sweep up.
Men too, drop something in our car. You know what I'm saying? Spill something on the car. It go crazy. So you're right.
Get out of their way.
And Brother Caruso, are you a minister?
Yeah, I am.
I'm got to be.
Okay.
Got to be.
I can feel it.
I'm a ordained Baptist minister at Mount Zion First African Baptist Church.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good fellowship. We also have a show here called The Body that I'm sure Razor is going to want to talk to you about.
Yes,
Pastor Edwards has been on.
Okay,
good.
Pastor Edwards has been on.
One of the things I will say, since you raised that, is for me, in church I'm in charge of the drama ministry, and for me, a lot of people look at that and say, "Oh man, you those are plays, right? Like plays, right?" But you know, in the context of church, and also in the context of old school, the play we did, it's much more than that. To me, it is a ministry. I speak the word of God, both in terms of His spoken word and His intentional word in what I do in plays. And so, old school ain't probably only time I think they used the word God in it was one of our cast members. I prayed to Jesus. I don't know what I'm gonna do with this boy. Whatever he said. But the point was, you can teach strong biblical values, in how you live one's life. So there was a lot of Bible in that play without ever saying Bible, because it was God intended that we speak life to people, and that's what that play did. I believe it was intended to speak life.
Absolutely,
even from old school.
Absolutely,
speak life.
You did it. You did it.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
So what's next for old school and the other endeavors that you're looking into?
Well, someone, it's funny. They hadn't even. The curtain had even went down before people were saying, "What's next?"
But when are we going on the road?
When are we going on the road?
Yeah,
but actually, what
is
next? I think in part is, and we've talked about it briefly. April and I have, and other members of the genealogy group, is that you asked about our intended audience, and I do think we have some work to do with the schools that hasn't been complete. I think some form, some way, we've got to take old school to the schools.
Yes.
And so that's probably our next endeavor. Someone challenged me today. Not let a cat out the bag about a sequel, right? And it's funny because what I thought of, the main character in the play was named Quinton. Wouldn't it be interesting if he grew up to be a teacher? And then he had a classroom of kids that he had to bring into the awareness that he learned. So it might be, we don't know where it's going to go. But I tend to like to do, beyond religious plays, but I like to do plays that speak to the black community in some way. And so I'm sure there's something else coming. Something else coming.
Absolutely. So before we let you go, though, how about the shout outs for the cast?
All right.
That was a nice lineup of local young people. Did an excellent job.
I tell you, it was bittersweet when it ended because I, as much as we had practiced and and been through all this, I couldn't wait to get a good night's sleep. But I will tell you that it was bittersweet in the sense that I hated to see them go. They became like my kids, man.
Yeah,
I wanted to get up in the morning. I wonder what they're doing. So it's a big shout out, and I'll just name the names. We had Dominique McLaughlin. Now she works at Region 10 as a counselor in the leadership role, and she's been in several plays at Mount Zion as well. And she played the teacher. Did a wonderful job. Our students was Madison Chin, Jonah Taylor. Jonah's well known. Madison is as well. Casey Chadwick, Naya Israel Brown. That was her first performance and did a wonderful job. Pastor Edwards' his grandson, Caden Edwards, and also his granddaughter. I'm looking for a name. Granddaughter. Caden. I already said Caden. That's why I right past it. So they both were in it. Erica Williams, she was played the vice principal. First time she was ever in the play, and fell in love with drama.
Wow.
You're gonna see her over and over again. I can assure you. Joan Woodfolk goes way back with Mount Zion in plays and outside of Mount Zion as well. Waterloo Hampton, he was in Black Mac and a few others as well. Yeah. Brenda Brown Grooms, everybody knows Brenda from her ministry as well as theater. Mark Williams, who absolutely is unbelievably awesome. Played John Gibbons, and he did a fantastic job with that. And Mount Zion's own Clarissa Bell, who played Rebecca McGinnis. And as you pointed out, our main character, Mr. St. Hill, Joshua St. Hill, he wrote a play of his own. He's from Monticello High School. Was a fabulous play. I didn't see it. He promised he's going to send me the script because I wanted to get a chance to see it. I could never stop being amazed by him. Yeah, he's awesome. The part I mentioned, which is the most tender part to play, where he has an interaction with Clarissa as Miss McGinnis, and she looks like she's going to turn and cry. He created that moment. That struck him. He reached out to her as he would his own grandmother. He's just amazing. So all the cast, man, I love them all. Love them all.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, April and Caruso, thank you for the great work that you all are doing. Please continue. Please know that you always can use this outlet for getting the word out.
Fantastic.
And much continued success.
That's right.
Can I make one more
Sure, go ahead.
And that's to our genealogy group. It's the African American Historical and Genealogical Organization, Burke Brown Step Chapter, located here in Charlottesville. We have a room that we work out of the Gibbons Room at the Heritage Center that we actually do classes for people on the third Saturday of every month between the hours of 10 and 12. If people want to know about genealogy and they're getting stuck and don't know where to turn, we're there for them. And we also encourage the community as a whole to come join our chapter as well.
All right.
And shout out to Ms. Andrea Douglas as well for always opening up those doors at Jefferson.
Kudos to Andrea. She came through. We were looking for a venue, and she said that her venue is our venue, and we were more than pleased with that.
That's great.
More than pleased.
Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. Anytime you feel like you want to do a little motivational speaking over the airwaves, in my humble opinion, is your place.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.